The apocalyptic landscape had become a moonscape. There was nothing but dust, rubble, gray. Entire city blocks razed to the ground. You just saw the pictures, buildings, apartment buildings with no walls, still sort of hanging suspended there. But no walls, uninhabitable. I have been covering conflict for 12 years. I have never experienced anything like Syria. And I remember the drive towards the city. The closer you got to it, the less power there was. And we drove along in this sort of tense silence with this eerie darkness all around us. But as you got closer, you started to hear sounds, the sounds of shelling. At first a dull thud, then louder and louder. Eventually we reached a place in Rif Halab, the area surrounding Aleppo, called Haytan. And by now the shelling was no longer a dull thud. It was artillery landing just a few hundred meters away from us. We grabbed our gear and dove into the basement of the house where we were staying, where we were the guests of several Syrian families. I went and sat with the women. Some of them prayed, some wept. One woman clutched a cushion and rocked back and forth. Most of them sat like me in suspended silence, just waiting. It's hard to describe the agony of that waiting. The pit that forms in your stomach when you hear those planes, because you know something terrible is about to happen, but you have no idea where it's going to happen. You're paralyzed. And I looked around the room at the rest of my colleagues, and my driver, a Syrian man from Tal Rifat, Ayman, looked at me and we made eye contact and he kind of just shrugged. Allahu alam. Only God knows. And we both understood in that moment that we were absolutely powerless to protect ourselves. And moments later, the room shook as the plane dropped a barrel bomb. The target, in fact, appeared to be a hospital. Fortunately, it had missed its target and hit a family home instead. This is actually hell. This is what hell feels like. And there's no way it can get any worse than this. But it did. It got a lot worse. Much worse. The medical facilities have been a favorite target. And in fact, my dear friend Ayman, the Syrian driver who I told you about, himself was killed by an airstrike while visiting a friend in a hospital, an injured friend in the city of Azaz. He's just one of many, many friends, colleagues, Syrians who I have known who have been killed. I have been covering conflict for 12 years. I have never experienced anything like Syria. As I said before, I've been a war correspondent for more than 10 years. I have been to Iraq, Afghanistan, Gaza, and every terrible conflict that you can think of. I have never seen anything on the scale. There are no winners.